I moved in on a Tuesday. Rain was falling heavy that day, and the city felt cold, even for late October. The flat was on the third floor of an old building that looked like it hadn't been cleaned or cared for in years. Paint peeled from the walls outside. The elevator was broken, so I took the stairs. Everything smelled like wet stone and metal. The rent was cheap. Too cheap. I didn't ask questions. I just needed a place to start over. The landlord barely looked at me, just handed me the key and mumbled, "Apartment 13." Then walked away. No paperwork, no ID check, no small talk. At the time, I thought it was lucky. Now, I know better. I remember unlocking the door to my new flat. It creaked like it hadn't been opened in a long time. Inside, it was dark. Not because there weren't windows, there were. But the light didn't feel right, like it stopped at the doorway, like the shadows inside didn't want to let go. I turned on the lights. They flickered, but stayed on. The place was mostly empty. Just an old fridge, a cracked bathroom mirror, and a mattress on the floor. I dropped my bag and took a deep breath. The air was heavy, thick, like someone had been breathing there before me, like they were still in the room. But I told myself it was just nerves. New place, old building. I unpacked slowly, trying not to think too much. But something kept bugging me. Something simple. Something stupid. Why was there no 12th apartment? The numbers on the doors went from 11 to 13. Number 12. I remember standing in the hallway, staring at the doors. Counting again. 11 to skip 13. It felt like the building itself didn't want to talk about it. Didn't want me to notice. Back inside, I tried to sleep. But the walls made noise. Soft tapping. Like someone scratching gently. Or writing. I put on headphones. Closed my eyes. Then, 3 knocks on the wall behind my bed. Not loud. Not fast. But clear. And close. I waited. Another knock. Same place. Same rhythm. I stood up. Put my hand on the wall. It was warm. Warmer than the air around me. Like something was behind it. Breathing. I didn't sleep that night. At 3:13 a.m., the light in the hallway turned on by itself. Just for a second. I got up, looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, but I could feel someone standing there, like they were watching me watch them. I backed away from the door and saw it. A red mark, drawn on the inside of my front door, like a small symbol. I hadn't noticed it before. Looked ancient, scratched in, like it had been burned into the wood. I tried to wipe it off. It didn't move. I stared at it for a long time, and I remember whispering out loud to no one, "What happened to the last person who lived here?" The light flickered again, and that's when I realized this apartment didn't want me here. It needed me here, and I was the 13th. You said, I woke up to the sound of whispering, not from outside, not from a neighbor. It was coming from inside my room. I sat up quickly, my heart racing. The room was still dark, but the whispering stopped the second I moved, like it knew I was awake. I turned on the lamp beside the bed. It buzzed, flickered, then settled. There was nothing there, no one in the room, but the closet door was open, just a little. I was sure I had closed it the night before. I'm always careful about that. Boys. I stood up and walked over. Every step I took felt heavy, like the air itself didn't want me getting closer. When I reached the closet, I took a breath and pulled it fully open. Empty, except for one thing, a piece of folded paper on the floor. I picked it up slowly. The paper felt old, like it could fall apart in my hand. There was writing on it, just 5 words. Don't stay past 13 nights. That was it. No name, no date, no explanation. I read it again, and again. 13 nights. Had someone left this here for me? Was it for the last tenant? Was it from the last tenant? Suddenly, I remembered what the landlord had said, or hadn't said. No welcome. No rules. Apartment 13. Like that was enough. I stepped back and looked around the room. It felt smaller, tighter. The walls seemed closer than they had the night before. And that smell, but the metallic, like rust, or blood. I opened the window for air, but it wouldn't budge. Painted shut, or worse, sealed. The only sound outside was the creaking of the old building. But under that, something softer. Whispers. I pressed my ear to the wall, and I heard them. Not just one voice. Many. Muttering. Crying. Begging. It lasted for 10 seconds. Maybe less. Then silence. I stumbled back and grabbed my phone. Looked up the building online. Nothing came up. No history. No reviews. No records. It was like it didn't exist. Like I wasn't supposed to be able to find anything. I tried to call someone, anyone, but my phone had no signal. Inside the apartment, it never did. Only outside. I wanted to leave right then. Pack my things, get out. But I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe it was the cold. Maybe it was the fear. Maybe it was already too late. That night, before I went to bed, I scratched a mark into the wall above the door. One line. For night 1. 12 to go. If the note was right, I wasn't just living in apartment 13. I was trapped in a countdown. You said, the second night felt different. Not louder. Not darker. Just heavier. Like the walls knew I was still there. And they weren't happy about it. I kept hearing footsteps. So slow. Pacing above me. But I was on the top floor. There's nothing up there. No stairs. No attic. Just the roof. At around midnight, I checked the hallway. It was quiet. I opened my door slowly, holding my breath. The hall light was on, but it flickered in short bursts. Almost like it was breathing. The air was cold. Freezing cold. But only outside my apartment. Inside, the air was still warm. Thick. That's when I saw it. Another symbol. This one carved into the wall across from my door. Different from the first. More curved. Almost like a spiral. And below it, a line of small handprints. Too small for adults. Too many to count. They weren't there yesterday. I was sure of it. I reached out to touch one, but the moment my fingers got close, the lights went out. Total darkness. And in the silence, I heard breathing. Not mine. Not even near me. It was behind the wall. Right where the handprints were. Long to deep breaths. I stepped back quickly and shut my door. Locked it. Bolted it. I didn't sleep. At 3 a.m., the baby monitor across the hall beeped. I don't have a baby. No one on this floor does. No crying. No voices. Just that soft, electronic beep. Then silence. And then, a soft knock at my door. One knock. Then two more. Like a pattern. Like a code. I froze. Didn't breathe. Didn't speak. The knock came again. Same rhythm. What? Then I heard a voice whisper. Night 2. That was it. The next morning, when I opened the door, the hallway was empty. No prints. No carvings. No sign anyone had been there. Except for the third mark on my door. Another scratch. Fresh. I didn't put it there. But now, I had 2. And the countdown continued. The third night came faster than I expected. Time felt strange in that place. Days passed slowly, but nights came crawling, like they were waiting for me. I kept trying to tell myself none of it was real. That I was imagining things. Just sleep deprivation. Isolation. But deep down, I knew better. Something was watching me. Something didn't want me to leave. I spent most of the day walking around the neighborhood. Anything to avoid being inside. But no matter how far I walked, I always ended up near the building again, like I was on a leash. By the time I got back, the sun had already gone down. And that feeling was back. That weight in the air. That pressure in my chest. When I opened the door to my apartment, everything was exactly where I left it. Except for one thing. There was a chair in the middle of the room. Not mine. Wooden. Its back carved with the number 3. I stared at it for a long time. No one had been inside. The door was still locked. The window still sealed. But it was there, waiting. I didn't touch it, just walked around it, keeping my eyes on it like it might move. At around 1 a.m., the whispers came back. But this time, they were louder. Not like they were behind the wall. More like they were inside the room. It was like a dozen voices all talking at once. But none of them made sense. They were speaking in a language I didn't understand. Fast, sharp, desperate. I covered my ears, but it didn't help. The voices were in my head. And then the chair moved. Just a little. A scrape across the floor. I opened my eyes and saw it. Turned slightly, now facing my bed. I froze. And then I heard a laugh. But hollow. I ran to the door. Tried to open it. But the deadbolt wouldn't turn. The knob was stuck. I pounded on the door, yelling for help. But no one came. No one ever did. The chair creaked again. I turned around and it was now facing the kitchen. Every hair on my body stood up. I backed into the corner, too scared to move. And I whispered, "Please stop." The voices went silent. Instantly. I sat there until morning. When the sun finally broke through the clouds, I stood up and checked the chair. It hadn't moved again. But the number on it was different. It now said 4. That's when I noticed the new scratch on the door. 3 now. 3 marks. Like someone or something was keeping score. And I had no idea what would happen when it reached 13. You said, that morning, I didn't leave the apartment. I couldn't. My legs felt like they didn't belong to me. Heavy. The fear was still stuck in my chest like a stone. I tried to eat something, but the food tasted wrong. Spoiled maybe, but it had just been bought. Even water felt thick going down my throat. Like the air in this place was soaking into everything, corrupting it. Around noon, I heard the sound of something scratching. Not outside. Not behind the wall this time. It was coming from the bathroom. I opened the door slowly. The mirror was fogged, like someone had just taken a hot shower. But I hadn't used it. No water had been running. I wiped the glass with my hand, and that's when I saw it. A word was written across the mirror, like it had been etched with a fingernail. Almost. I stared at it for a full minute. What did that mean? Almost what? Almost time? Almost dead? Almost gone? The mirror cracked suddenly. A sharp, loud sound that made me stumble back. A thin split down the middle, like it had been cut with a knife. I slammed the door shut and backed into the hallway. I didn't know what I was doing anymore. I started pacing, room to room, just to feel like I had control. When I got to the front door, I saw something new on the wall near it. A photo, taped there like it had always been, black and white. 13 people standing outside this very building. All of them smiling. All of them wearing numbers pinned to their shirts. From 1 to 13. The 13th one looked like me. Same hair. Same face. Same tired eyes. I pulled the photo off the wall and stared at it. No name. No date. Nothing written on the back. I checked my door again. Another scratch. For now. I went to my desk and opened my journal. I hadn't written in days. I needed to remember this. All of it. Because something was happening here. And I didn't think I'd be able to explain it when it was over. If it ever was. As I wrote, the lights began to dim. Not off. Just weaker. like the apartment was breathing again. And in the distance, somewhere beyond the walls, I heard a voice whisper, "5 will fall." I stopped writing, looked around. No one there. But I felt it. The presence. The growing weight of something watching. Waiting. And I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever this thing was, it was getting closer. You said, that night, I didn't turn off the lights. Not even one. Every bulb in that apartment was on. Kitchen. Hallway. Even the bathroom, though I couldn't bring myself to look in the mirror again. I tried to stay awake. Caffeine. Loud music. But by 2:30 a.m., my eyes started to close on their own. That's when the TV turned on. All by itself. I hadn't touched the remote. It was still on the table, inches from my hand. The screen was just static. White noise. But I could hear something underneath it. A voice. Low and buried, like it was speaking through a storm. I turned the volume up. Slowly. And I swear, the voice was saying my name. Over and over. Come home, my name. It's time to come home. I froze. The room suddenly felt colder, like a window had opened. But they were all shut. But then the lights started flickering. One by one. Kitchen. Bedroom. Hallway. The last one to go was the lamp beside me. Then, darkness. Except for the TV. The static grew louder. And the voice, clear. Now I could hear what it was really saying. 6 remain. 6 must stay. I stood up, heart pounding. I pulled the plug from the wall. But the TV stayed on. I yanked the cord again. Nothing. Static. Louder. The voice screaming now. 6. 6. Stay. I covered my ears and ran to the front door. I didn't care anymore. I had to get out. But when I opened it, the hallway wasn't there. It was just black. Endless black. No floor. No walls. No ceiling. Just a deep, humming sound, like breathing. I shut the door and stumbled back. The TV finally went dark. I stood there, shaking. Alone. Then I noticed it. A new mark on the wall. Fresh. Scratch number 5. But this time, there was something new next to it. A handprint. Smaller than mine. Bloody. Still wet. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat against the wall, watching the door. And I waited. Because I knew. Night 6 was coming. And it wanted something from me. Something I didn't know how to give. You said, morning came, but it didn't feel like morning. The light outside was gray, colorless. The kind of light that makes everything look sick. I hadn't slept. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the static. I heard that voice. 6. But I wasn't going to stay. Not if I could help it. I grabbed my phone and called the landlord. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. I thought maybe I could find him in person. So I left the apartment, walked down the stairs. The hallway looked different. Too long. The wallpaper was peeling in new places. Like the building was aging faster than it should. When I reached the ground floor, I saw something that stopped me cold. A man standing in front of apartment 001. Face to the door. Perfectly still. He didn't move when I called out to him. Didn't even twitch. So I walked closer. And that's when I realized he wasn't standing. He was hanging. Feet just barely touching the ground. Neck bent at a strange angle. Eyes wide open. And burned into the wood above the door. The number 6. I backed away, shaking, and ran to the lobby. But it wasn't a lobby anymore. It was an empty room. No doors. No windows. Just walls. Like the building was folding in on itself. I turned back, ran up the stairs, and stopped at the second floor. Apartment 207, my neighbor's place, was wide open. Curiosity got the best of me. I stepped inside. Everything was covered in dust. Rotting food. Well, like no one had lived there for years. But I'd just seen him. 2 days ago. He waved at me. I remember it clearly. Then I saw the journal. sitting on the couch. I opened it. It was filled with page after page of the same sentence. He is the seventh. He is the seventh. He is the seventh. Over and over again. The handwriting changed. Different pens, different pressure, but always the same words. I dropped the journal and ran back to my apartment. When I got inside, the chair was back in the center of the room. This time, it had a mirror sitting on it, and taped to the mirror was a note. Sit. Wait. I didn't want to. Every bone in my body told me not to, but I sat. I looked, and I saw myself, but not like I looked now. Paler, thinner, eyes sunken, and behind me in the reflection, a shadow, not tall, not human. It smiled. That's when I heard the whisper again. 7 is ready. And just like that, the mirror cracked straight down the middle. But the reflection didn't shatter. It stayed, still smiling. And I realized, whatever's in this building, it's not waiting for me to leave. It's waiting for me to break. You said, I woke up on the floor. No memory of falling asleep. No memory of dreaming. But my hands were dirty, dust under my fingernails. My shirt smelled like mildew, like I'd been crawling somewhere old. I looked around the apartment. The chair was gone. So was the mirror. Only the crack on the wall remained. Now longer, wider, like something had been pushing from the other side. I checked the door. Scratch number 6 was there now. But it wasn't alone. Right above it, the symbol, etched deep, like it had been burned into the wood. Looked like a twisted number 8, but wrong. Like it didn't belong to our language. I tried to leave again. I don't know why I keep trying. Well, maybe. Or stupidity. But the hallway was gone. This time, when I opened the door, it was my apartment again. From the outside. Same furniture. Same rug. Same cracked mirror on the wall. Except I was still standing inside. And also standing outside. Looking in. At me. We stared at each other. Neither of us moved. Then the other me smiled. But I didn't. I couldn't. That's how I knew. It wasn't me. The fake me raised a hand. Pressed it to the glass on the other side. I backed away slowly. Closed the door. And locked it. A second later. A knock. So, rhythmic. Then a voice whispered from the other side. Let me in. You're already out. I didn't answer. I just turned and walked to the window. Still barred. Still dark outside. No sound. No people. No traffic. No world, it seemed. I sat down on the floor and tried to think. What is this place? What am I now? Am I the original? Or have I already been replaced? That's when I saw the photo again. The one from earlier. 13 people standing outside this building. My copy was gone, but now it was on the wall. Framed. And the person labeled 7? The one who looked like me? His face was scratched out. Torn. And a new number was scrawled beside it. 8. The scratches are counting me. The photo is updating without me touching it. The apartment is learning. Watching. Changing. And I don't know how many more changes I can take before I disappear too. That night the air felt heavier, like something was sitting on my chest. Even when I stood up, it was harder to breathe. The walls felt closer than before, almost like they were leaning in. I paced the room, trying to ignore the feeling. But the floor creaked with every step, and each creak sounded wrong. Not like wood, more like a breath. The sigh. At 3:13 a.m., the lights dimmed, just slightly, then came back brighter than ever, all at once. That's when the whispers started again. Not from the TV this time. Not from the door. From inside the walls. I pressed my ear against the dry wall near the kitchen. It was faint, but there. A voice mumbling. Too fast. Like it was trying to say every word in the world at once, but only had one mouth to do it. I backed away and grabbed my phone. The battery was full. That was strange. I hadn't charged it in days. The screen lit up on its own. When the camera switched to front-facing, and there, behind me, was someone standing in the kitchen. I spun around. Nothing. Empty. Quiet again. But when I looked back at my phone, the photo had been taken. A still frame of me, frozen in fear, and a blurry figure with no face. Just a shadow where a head should be. I deleted it, then checked my photo gallery. There were dozens more, all time-stamped while I slept, all from the front camera, all showing that same shadow getting closer. In the last one, it was only inches behind me, and I was smiling. I turned the phone off, put it in the freezer. Don't ask me why. I just had to get it away from me. But the lights in the freezer flickered when I did. That's when I heard the knock again. Not at the door. From inside the apartment. 3 knocks. Slow. Coming from the bathroom. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen drawer. Walked slowly. Each step felt like walking into cold water. I reached the door. It was open. Just a crack. I pushed it wider. And written on the mirror, in steam, were 3 words. Number 9 enters. I hadn't used the bathroom. I hadn't showered. There was no reason for steam. But the mirror was fogged, and the air inside was warm. I backed out, closed the door, and scratched another mark onto the front door myself. Number 9. Because I finally accepted it. I'm not escaping. I'm being counted. And whatever's doing it, it's almost done. The next morning didn't feel like morning. No sunlight. No change in temperature. Just time moving forward like it was being pushed by something tired. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the door. 9 scratches now. 9 signs that something had claimed me. I didn't remember making that 9th mark, but it was there, and my hands still smelled like iron. I checked the walls again. More scribbles. Words I didn't recognize, written in a language that curled like smoke. They pulsed faintly, like veins under skin. Alive. I heard footsteps upstairs, but no one lived above me. That unit had been sealed off since I moved in. Still, the thuds came. Slow. Even. Then dragging sounds. Like something being pulled across the floor. I tried to ignore it. Tried to drown it out with the TV. But the screen was black. And a reflection appeared. Not of me. Of a hallway, one I didn't recognize. Stone walls. Flickering lights. And a door at the end. On the screen, the camera moved forward, like someone was walking. The door got closer. Closer. Until finally it opened. And I saw my apartment. From inside. I jumped up, turned the TV off, but the screen stayed on. The image froze on that last frame. My room. My bed. My face, sleeping. But I was awake. I looked around the room. Everything was where it should be, except for the smell. Something was burning. I ran to the kitchen. Nothing on the stove. Then I turned toward the bedroom again. Creeping from under the bed. I dropped to the floor and looked underneath. A small fire. Controlled. Contained. Like it was meant to be there. Right in the center, something metal was glowing. A key. I reached for it, ignoring the heat, and pulled it out. Burned my fingers, but held on. It was old. Rusted. Attached to a tag with 1 word. 10. 10. Like the next number. The next scratch. I didn't want to know what it unlocked. But my body moved on its own. I walked to the closet. The door I never used. The one that never opened. Until now. The key slid in smoothly. The lock clicked. And behind that door, stairs leading down, where there should have been nothing. No basement. No lower floor. Just concrete. But here I was, staring into a spiral staircase that disappeared into blackness. I stood there for minutes, maybe hours. Then I heard the door behind me shut. the sound of another scratch being carved into wood. I had stepped over the line, and the building was welcoming me deeper. I stood at the top of the stairs for what felt like forever. The air coming up from below was thick, wet, like breath from something asleep. I didn't want to go down, but I couldn't go back either. The door behind me was gone. Not closed, gone. Just more wall where it used to be. So I started walking. The staircase was narrow and cold, carved out of old stone. It creaked under my steps, even though it was solid. Every footstep echoed like it had company. Company that wasn't me. The deeper I went, the more I felt pulled. Not by force, by curiosity. There were markings on the walls now, similar to the ones upstairs. Twisting letters. Shapes that didn't belong to any language I knew. But some part of me understood them. They weren't words. They were warnings. When I reached the bottom, I found myself in a long hallway. Dim red lights blinked above, slow, tired pulses. At the end of the hall was a room. A door slightly open, like it had been waiting. I pushed it slowly. Inside was a small office. Papers scattered across the desk. And in the corner, a filing cabinet. Something about it made my skin crawl. It was humming. I opened it. Inside were files. 12, to be exact. Each labeled with a number. And a name. Tenant 1. Tenant 2. Up to Tenant 12. I flipped through them. Pictures. Journal entries. Drawings of the same markings I'd seen on my walls. Descriptions of the same dreams I had. They had all gone mad in the end. Disappeared. One left only a red handprint on the wall. Another carved their own name into their body before vanishing. But they all shared one thing. Each one said this line in their final page. The building chose me, and now it won't let me go. I turned the page to see if there was a file for number 13. There wasn't, but something had scratched the back of the drawer, like fingernails. And below the scratches was a note, taped and faded. Just 2 words. You're next. Then the lights above me flickered, and the door slammed shut behind me. And there, on the wall, in fresh red paint, 11. I hadn't marked it. I hadn't even left the room. But the building was counting, even when I wasn't watching. And now there were only 2 numbers left. The room started to feel smaller. Not physically, mentally. Like the walls were pressing against my thoughts, making them harder to keep straight. I stared at the number 11 on the wall. Still wet. Still dripping. But there was no paint. No brush. No source. I touched it. It was warm. I stepped back, my heart beating like it wanted out of my chest. And that's when I saw it. A mirror in the corner. I hadn't noticed it before. Correct. But it showed the room perfectly. Except, not me. In the mirror, I wasn't there. The room was empty. But the chair behind the desk? It was slowly spinning. Even though in real life, it didn't move. Then the reflection changed. The filing cabinet in the mirror opened on its own. A 13th file slid out. But when I turned to look in real life, nothing. I looked back at the mirror. The file was open, and inside it, a photo of me, sitting exactly where I stood. But behind me in the mirror, someone was standing. I spun around. No one there. But I heard breathing, heavy, behind my ear. I didn't look back. I ran, straight for the door. But it wasn't locked anymore. It opened too easily, like it wanted me to leave now. Like I'd seen enough. I ran back up the stairs, my hands sliding along the wall to keep balance. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if something was trying to drag me back down. When I finally reached my apartment, the door was wide open. But it wasn't my room. Everything had changed. Walls were covered in black vines. The lights were flickering. The windows were bricked up. And on the floor, 12 shoes. Lined up. And space for one more. I stepped in. The door slammed behind me. I turned and saw it. The wall, freshly carved, 12 marks. The 13th space still empty. But I knew, once that final line appeared, I'd be gone too. Like the others, the building wasn't haunted. It was hungry, and I was almost its next meal. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even sit down. I just watched the wall, where the 12 scratches waited, where the 13th would soon appear. Kept thinking, if I stared at it long enough, maybe I could stop it. But sometime around 3 a.m., I blinked, just once. And when I opened my eyes, the 13th mark was there, fresh, still dripping. I backed away slowly. My breathing got loud, too loud. Then I realized it wasn't mine. Someone else was breathing, in the room, with me. But there was no one, not in front of me, not behind me, but the reflection in the TV screen showed someone standing right behind me, not moving, not blinking, just staring. My heart stopped. I didn't want to turn around, but I had to, and when I did, nothing, no one there. But the air was colder, heavier, like something had been close, too close. I grabbed my keys, my coat, and I ran, down the hall, down the stairs, toward the exit. But every door I opened led to another hallway, another floor. My apartment was shifting, changing. The building wouldn't let me leave. I ran to the lobby. The front door was wide open. I could see the street. Freedom. I sprinted toward it and slammed face first into a wall. Not a door, not glass, bricks. The exit was gone, replaced with stone, like it had never been a door at all. I screamed. I pounded on it. And then, from behind me, I heard the elevator ding. I turned. The doors opened slowly. It was me, staring back. Same face, same clothes, same terrified eyes. But he smiled and stepped out, and I stepped back. He whispered, "It's okay. You can rest now." And before I could move, he stepped into my body. Everything went dark, but I could still hear him, walking back to the apartment, breathing, living, as me. The 13th tenant had disappeared, and someone else now lived in my skin. I woke up, but I wasn't in control. I was seeing through my eyes, but I couldn't move, couldn't speak. I was a passenger. The other me was living my life now, walking through my apartment, drinking my coffee, smiling in the mirror. I was stuck deep inside, screaming silently, begging to be let out. But no one could hear me. He left the apartment like everything was normal, waved to the old woman down the hall, picked up my mail, even laughed at a joke from the landlord. They all believed he was me, but I noticed something strange. Every mirror, every screen, still showed me, the real me, behind the smile. Flickers of panic, eyes that didn't match the grin, and then something worse. My phone lit up. A message from a contact I didn't recognize. Just one word, help. He ignored it, put the phone down, but the screen stayed on, glitched. It showed a photo, blurry, but I recognized the room. It was the basement, the one with the files, the one I'd found days ago. And in the photo, the filing cabinet was open, a new folder inside, still being written. It was labeled Tenant 14. My heart sank. The building wasn't done. Not yet. It had moved to the next victim. But who was it now? Who was being watched? He shut off the phone, closed the curtains, and whispered something under his breath. I couldn't make it out at first, but he repeated it, again and again, one in, one out. And that's when it hit me. He didn't replace me. He released me, but only because someone else was already chosen. The curse didn't stop. It just needed the next soul. The 13th tenant always disappears. But the 14th? They get to live. For a while. Until the door opens again. Until the mirror smiles back. And someone new steps inside. I don't know how long I've been like this. Not fully gone, but not really here either. I float somewhere between memories and shadows. Between my life and the one he's living as me. But lately, things have started to shift again. The apartment is colder, quieter, almost like it's waiting. And him? The thing wearing my face? He's changing. His eyes don't shine anymore. He flinches at mirrors. He's starting to forget how to smile. Like something's rotting inside him. Maybe it's me. Maybe I never really left. And last night, he woke up at 3:13 a.m. He gasped, sat straight up, and looked around in panic. Then he saw it. A 14th scratch on the wall. Fresh. But he's supposed to be safe. He was the 14th. Someone moved in. Another tenant. The cycle had started again. And that meant the building didn't need him anymore. I could feel it. A shift in power. The same way I felt it when it was my time. He's scared now. I see it in every breath. Every glance at the walls. He knows. He's next. Because here's the secret the building never tells you. It doesn't want your body. It wants your fear. Your mind. And once it gets enough, you vanish. But your story? That stays. Written in cracks. In stains. In whispers behind doors that never open. I'm almost free. I can feel the pull. The light coming back. But someone, somewhere, is about to sign a lease. Maybe for cheap rent. Maybe to start over. Maybe to escape. And when they do, they'll become the 15th tenant. And the countdown will begin again. You said, if you're watching this, check your walls. Count the scratches. Look in the mirrors. But not for your reflection. Look for the one behind it. The building still stands. Quiet. Cheap rent. It waits for new footsteps in the hallway. For a key to turn. For someone to ignore the stains and say, this place just needs a little love. But love doesn't live here. Not anymore. Only stories. Stories like mine. Like his. Like the ones before us. And the ones still to come. Because the 13th tenant isn't just a ghost story. It's a warning. A trap dressed as opportunity. And once you're inside, you don't leave. Not really. The building keeps a piece of you. Forever. So next time you see an apartment listing that feels too good to be true, don't answer the ad. Don't sign the lease. And whatever you do, don't be the next number on the wall. Tus.